Good afternoon. I now call this joint meeting of the University and Faculty Senates to order. I also note that we have two parliamentarians, and Nancy Sims, our Senate parliamentarian from the libraries, and Marion Simmons, a independent professional registered parliamentarian from near where I live, Stillwater. Item 2 concerns administrator responses to Senate actions and is presented for information. There's none pending. Item 3 is a list of recent faculty, staff, and student deaths that has been sent for announcement to the Senate. I invite you to observe a moment of silence while I read the names. Under the faculty staff, Martin Bussman, Andrea Fawney, Jennifer Peterson, Todd Schuster, Stephen Swanson, and under students, Michael Hepp. Item 4 is approval of the minutes from the Senate meeting of September 25th, 2025. Does anyone object to approving the minutes? I can't see very well, but seeing no objections, the minutes are approved. Correct? Okay. If I move to the next page, it tells me what to say. Okay. Item 5 is approval of minutes from the Faculty Senate meeting of September 25th, 2025. Does anyone object to approving these minutes? Seeing no objections, they are also approved. Item 6 is the SCC and FCC Chairs Report. Professor Leo, please, wherever you are. And I want to again reiterate that you should ask him many questions. He likes to answer them.
Oh yeah, more than anything. Thanks, Professor Cohen. Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here. I am well aware that this has been a bit of a bouncy ride for a Senate meeting, so I want to talk briefly about how this meeting came about. So, pardon? Oh. So on Monday, October 6th, the Senate Consultative Committee met and discussed several items, including the safety protocol resolution, which the Faculty Consultative Committee also discussed earlier today, and which I expect will come to the body at the next Senate meeting. That was Monday, October 6th. The next day, Tim Johnson and I, Tim is the co-chair of the FCC-SCC, met with Senate staff and learned that there were no major agenda items for this meeting proposed by either committees of the Senate, senators themselves, or administrators. Tim and I discussed potential topics with Senate staff, including an open forum on issues confronting higher education, similar to what we're going to talk about later with the resolution the resolution concerning the compact. But after contacting the president and provost, they noted that they had already held open forums and have been holding open forums for faculty and preferred to continue that approach. As an aside, in a separate meeting with the provost, she said that both her and the president are willing to host an open forum solely for senators using the same format that they have been using. So on that, after hearing back from the president and provost, and with no agenda items and no administrative preference or presence confirmed for an open forum, and with the desire to be respectful of people's time, Johnson and I decided to cancel the Senate meeting. I reported this to the FCC the following day, that would be Thursday, at a regularly scheduled meeting of that group. Following several emails, the SCC voted to rescind the cancellation of the Senate meeting, and a special meeting was organized to plan this agenda. I do acknowledge that the SCC has authority over the agenda, and we will work on the timing of all these different meetings that come up to plan the agenda, as well as the SCC agenda itself, so that the agenda for the Senate meetings is a recurring discussion at the monthly SCC meetings. Hopefully people followed that. I want to thank the SCC for coming together on a short notice to set an agenda for today's meeting. And I also especially want to thank the Senate staff for helping to put it together on very short notice. I also want to thank Professors Kirtley, Galope, and Quick for offering to lead the discussion on the compact with the Trump administration and the resulting resolution that was in the agenda. We also have a broad discussion later of how to establish trust, and I am very interested in hearing from a broad spectrum of senators to get a better understanding of what I can do, we can do, the administration can do to make this a more effective body. I do think we all agree that there are so many things coming at us from external sources, from internal sources, that we need to ensure that faculty, staff, and student voices are part of the conversation. So that concludes my report, and I am happy to answer questions.
Okay, item 7 are questions for the SCC and FCC chair. I will delegate calling on speakers to Amber Bakke, and I will ask her to explain the queuing process, which has gotten more complicated because of our in-person and Zoom combination. Okay, Amber.
Thank you, Chair Cohen. The queue is open now, and we are getting the QR code is up also, so we will be using a modified version of the queuing system that we used last time. This time, the QR code and link lead to a Google form. The form will populate the list, which will delay things slightly, but should take care of the syncing issues we had last time. We will also rotate through constituencies, as we did last time. In addition, this is kind of boilerplate language. Senators and designated alternates will be prioritized over non-members, and speakers who have not yet spoken on a given item prioritized over those who have, including yielding time. When I call your name, if you're online, you can unmute yourself and begin speaking. If you are present in Kaufman Theater, please stand and move to the end of your row, and a Senate staff member will bring a mic to you. If moving to the end of the row poses an accessibility challenge, you may just raise your hand instead.
Okay.
I'm looking in the queue and I don't see any questions yet. Somebody please call out if it's not working.
I am more than happy to hang around after the meeting to answer questions one-on-one as well.
Okay, just saw a couple come in.
Question.
First we have a question from Emily Johnson, who is a student here in person.
Where?
Oh, it's okay. Next, we have a question from Yvette Reibel, who's a faculty senator here in the Twin Cities. Well, at least it's working. Thanks for the test.
Somebody can ask me what my favorite color is or something.
All right, then next up is Aisha Ghani, who is here in person, also faculty senator. Wow. Well, okay, let's see. Got a couple more people coming in. Sasha Zagaloff, who is online. You can just unmute yourself and speak, Sasha, when you're ready.
Hey, sorry about that. I was trying to test it for later on in the agenda. I apologize.
And Paolo Pagliari, online also. That looks like everybody. And so those of you who are in the queue, I am going to clear it out between all the items so people can't get a hard head start. So just FYI, if you're in there now for a future discussion item, you'll need to re-enter. I guess we can move on.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
You're sure you're not going to ask him another question? At least one question? Okay. Item 8. Item 8 is approval of a slate of Twin City faculty candidates for the Senate Committee on Committees. The name of the committee, I think, is most interesting. This vote, the Twin Cities faculty senators only, and we will do a voice vote. But I think that this should be, do we have Ian here? Is Ian here?
Ian is not here.
Oh, okay. So the candidates are listed on the agenda, and all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Done. Okay, item 9 concerns the Compact for Academic Excellence in Higher Education, put out by the current administration in Washington, D.C., and a related resolution. I invite Professor Kirtley, Quick, and Gillespie to the stage. And yes. And Professors Quick and Gillespie will introduce the resolution before we turn to debate and discussion. Okay?
Can I start?
Yes, please.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jane Kirtley. I'm listed as law, and I am affiliated with the law school, but my chair is actually in the School of Journalism and Mass Communication. I'm a lawyer by training, and that is why I was given the unenviable task of trying to explain to you in 5 minutes or less what this compact is all about. It was initially sent to 9 universities. Of those 9, 7 have declined to sign on to it. Texas still remains in the maybe camp, and my law school alma mater, Vanderbilt, is still dithering. On October 14th, the administration extended its offer to sign the compact to any U.S. higher education institution. So the University of Minnesota would now be among those eligible to sign. Your first question is probably, so what's in it for the signatories? What's the carrot to induce them to sign? Access to student loans, grants, and federal contracts, direct or indirect funding for research, approval of student or other visas in connection with attending or working at a university, and preferential treatment under the tax code, which means that you would be able to retain your tax-exempt status. It sets out the U.S. government priorities in its engagement with universities, quote, that benefit the relationship, close quote. As the compact says, institutions of higher education are free to develop models and values other than those listed as long as the institution elects to forego federal benefits. Without going into all of the law on this, I will just quickly tell you that this is known in the law as coercive exercise of conditional spending, which is a fancy way of saying if you don't abide by this, you won't get any money. There are 10 points in the compact. I will talk about them very briefly, but I'll be happy to answer questions in more detail. First one is equality in admissions, where admission is to be based on objective criteria as published on your website. Standardized testings for undergrads such as SAT and ACT must be taken by all undergraduates. There are specific exemptions for performance and other fine arts. No factors such as sex, ethnicity, race, nationality, political views, sexual orientation, gender identity, religious associations, or proxies for them shall be considered in admissions, except if you're a single-sex school or one that is a religious denomination. The second is marketplace of ideas and civil discourse. There's a lot to this. It basically talks about fostering a vibrant marketplace of ideas on campus. It requires universities to revise governance structures as necessary, including transforming, abolishing institutional units that purposely punish, belittle, and even spark violence against conservative ideas. It must also recognize that academic freedom is not absolute and must adopt policies preventing discriminatory, harassing, threatening, or other behaviors that abridge others' rights. It must commit to a rigorous good faith empirical assessment of a broad spectrum of viewpoints and share those results. It must prohibit incitement to violence and similar activities. Third is non-discrimination in faculty and administration hiring. You must commit to rigorous meritocratic selection based on objective and measurable criteria while complying with Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. Institutional neutrality, a concept that we're familiar with here. It applies to all levels of the administration. All university employees must abstain from actions and speech relating to social and political events except when they have a direct impact on the university. Must apply with equal force to all colleges, faculties, schools, departments, programs, centers, and institutes. It does say that university members are encouraged to comment on current events in their individual capacities. Number 5, student learning have to commit to great integrity in the use of defensible standards, not inflating or deflating grades for a non-academic reason. Public accountability measures are required, including grade distribution dashboards, public statements explaining outcomes, comparisons with peer institutions. Number 6, student equality must define male-female according to reproductive functions and biological processes. Otherwise, immutable characteristics do not permit unequal treatment, such as dedicated space, scholarships, and so forth. And I'll just interject quickly that I am pretty sure that this provision would violate the Minnesota Human Rights Act. The Supreme Court of the state in Cooper versus USA Powerlifting just yesterday reiterated this position. Number 7 is financial responsibility. This you've probably heard about. Requires institutions to freeze the effective tuition rates for the next 5 years, and any university with endowments exceeding $2 million per undergraduate student who is pursuing a hard science program must have free tuition. Number 8 is foreign entanglements. This has mandatory compliance with federal laws such as anti-money laundering provisions, the Know Your Customer. This is all ostensibly to help the government eradicate criminal and terrorist financing and activities. There's also a provision within this that talks about reducing admission of foreign and domestic undergraduate and graduate students. No more than 15% of the undergrad population can be international, and no more than 5% can come from one country. It also specifies that universities must screen out students who demonstrate hostility to the United States, its allies, or its values, and must share information about foreign students with the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of State. Number 9 is exemptions, which includes, again, the religious and single-sex institutions. Number 10 is the enforcement proceeding, which requires universities to annually certify their adherence to these principles. They must conduct a good faith, empirically rigorous, anonymous poll of students, faculty, and staff to evaluate the school's performance and publish those results on the website, which will be subject to Department of Justice review. There are sanctions on an annual basis if you are not in compliance. I'm not here to give you my views on this, but I will just give you a couple of quick citations. In the case of Sweezy versus New Hampshire in 1957, on the heels of the McCarthy era, the court said mere orthodoxy or dissent from the prevailing mores is not to be condemned, and faculty can't be compelled to disclose political ideological viewpoints. Last year's unanimous Supreme Court ruling in National Rifle Association versus Vulo said that when the government attempts to coerce individuals or organizations to waive their First Amendment rights in exchange for preferential treatment, this violates the First Amendment. There are many more cases that I can cite to you and more details that I can provide, but I'm going to now turn the podium over to the people that are sponsoring the resolution.
Say one thing, is that this is your Senate, and if you want to make a personal statement, you're welcome to. It's not, these are your colleagues, so.
Well, I will just, I'll just say, because I really want to turn it over to the sponsors. Number 2, marketplace of ideas and civil discourse. If it sounds dissonant to you, that's because it is. On the one hand, this compact requires universities to maintain institutional neutrality. But on the other hand, there are all kinds of provisions here that require adopting policies and provisions that protect certain types of speech and certain kinds of viewpoint, notably conservative viewpoints. And how you're going to square those two things is, to me, a complete mystery. I don't think that within itself this compact makes any sense and can work as in an enforceable way. It's very clear to me that this is a serious moment for universities throughout the country. I think it is significant that most of the 9 have immediately said, or in very short order said, that they will not sign on. It's really about autonomy. It's really about maintaining your intellectual integrity. And contrary to kind of the supposition of all this, I think that this really will undercut the marketplace of ideas.
Thank you, Dr. Whitley. Okay. Next, Michael? Kathy?
Hello. I'm Kathy Quick. I'm a professor and a senator from the Humphrey School of Public Affairs, and I also have a joint appointment with Extension. Michael and I are presenting the resolution, but we are just 2 among 66 voting members of the University Senate who have co-sponsored this resolution. The resolution is in the agenda for your review, so we're not going to eat up time that we would otherwise use for deliberation by reading it. You'll note that it is intentionally short and straightforward because it is a statement of principles. It is an urgent matter to assert and confirm those principles because the invitation to open the compact, to sign on to the compact, is here now. There are many reasons to support this resolution, and I'd like to share just 2 of them that are really foremost in my mind. First, our university is comprised of an ideologically diverse community of students, staff, and faculty. That is a tremendous asset, and we have to defend that. Signing the compact would mean that any federal administration, this one or future ones, could use it to suppress any viewpoints, liberal or conservative, that they don't like. My support for this resolution is not about whether my personal political ideologies do or do not align with the current federal administration, and your support for it should not hinge on that either. I'm a public affairs scholar and educator, and I strongly support a plurality of viewpoints and active engagement with and across them. I'm strongly in support of the resolution because we have to reject giving power to any federal administration to enforce any form of ideological orthodoxy. Second, supporting this resolution is actually doing our job. We have had crucially important discussions in the University Senate about our rights around academic freedom, institutional speech, and other forms of expression, and this resolution is clearly related to those same rights. But equally, it is related to our responsibilities. All of us in the Senate, the constituents whom we represent, take pride in realizing our research, teaching, and service commitments to people all over our region and indeed all over the world. My work through University Extension has reinforced to me that the public depends upon us to bring the highest level of integrity to that work and to be a credible source of knowledge and information. It is actually our responsibility to not compromise that integrity by agreeing to pursue or not to pursue certain kinds of inquiry and research, to produce and disseminate or not produce and disseminate certain kinds of research findings, to provide or not provide certain kinds of training and educational opportunities, or to partner with or not partner with certain community groups and organizations. As to concerns about the potential implications of not signing the compact in terms of what that might mean for funding, those are really heavy concerns. I feel them, but it is actually our job to not be bought by any administration, to not be beholden to any particular orthodoxy, and to protect our institutional autonomy. This resolution is actually about fulfilling our responsibilities and upholding our institutional mission. The last thing I would mention is that the compact calls for freezing tuition, and I imagine that many of us are very much in favor of somehow curbing rising tuition costs and are sympathetic to that concern. But surrendering our constitutional rights is not the way to accomplish that, And I also doubt that policies that would restrict international student enrollment are likely to cause any easing of tuition costs for domestic or international students. The last thing I want to say before I turn this over to Michael is that I don't relish being here, right? This is not a fun kind of argument to have. This is not about, grandstanding and enjoying that moment. I'm here because I feel that as a senator, it actually is my job to stand up for this resolution and stand up against these kinds of pressures, and I hope that you will join me.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm Michael Galope, faculty senator and professor and chair in the Department of Cultural Studies and Comparative Literature in the College of Liberal Arts. And I don't really have much to add. I just want a couple points of emphasis. Jane, who's been a great mentor and helping me understand some of the legal landscape of academic freedom, these unconstitutional conditions, in exchange for preferential treatment, universities are being asked to surrender constitutional rights. So the coercion is not only illegal, in practical terms, it's a very, very dangerous precedent. And like Kathy, I couldn't imagine, I didn't foresee something like this happening, but we have to take a look at the political landscape. This current administration aggressively targets disfavored speech in groups. It's targeted international students. It's attacked the very idea of expertise. They attack facts, they attack science. Lately, they've been going after Wikipedia and the method of editing. They undermine our medical experts' public health recommendations. And just to put my humanities nerd hat on for a second, to paraphrase the German Jewish philosopher Theodor Adorno, like the autocrats of the 1930s and 40s, the Trump administration distorts questions of truth into questions of power. So I think we have to imagine, as hard as it may be right now, a still more hostile federal administration, because this sets a precedent for future administrations and for the autonomy of our institution, still more hostile to academic freedom and free speech. We have to imagine future presidents with still less regard for human rights. As Kathy mentioned, in crafting the resolution, we deliberately kept the wording very simple. It's not an analysis or a position paper about the compact. It's a statement of principles that is intended to safeguard the university's rights. And our university community works tirelessly to protect the search for truth, the production of new knowledge. Even when the subject matters are difficult, when we disagree, we have to deal with contestation and complications. But those of us engaged in this work know well that there is an abundance of viewpoints on all kinds of issues at our university. And if politicians are empowered to censor, defund, or punish what they consider to be disfavored views, the public trust in the work that we do will be lost. As our colleagues at MIT noted when rejecting the compact, the granting of federal funding must be based in academic merit, not ideological alignment with the government. Is passing this urgent? Absolutely. We are in a momentum battle for the future of higher education. And the momentum is currently on our side, as Jane and Kathy pointed out. 7 of the 9 universities who were specifically asked to sign the compact have stood up and said no. And Trump has already offered us, along with other US universities, the opportunity to sign. So the time to act is now. And it's even more important to do so collectively. This is the University Senate representing students, staff, and faculty alike. Earlier this month, the UVA Faculty Senate voted overwhelmingly 60-2 to reject the compact, and soon after, their president concurred and rejected it. And like UVA, like any university, our collective values of students, staff, and faculty are all under threat. So with our shared voice, we can safeguard the principles of our freedom. Thank you.
Thank you both. Okay, we will now proceed to debate. Parliamentarians call it debate, but I think it's a discussion. We will utilize the virtual queue that we've done previously, which Amber will run. I do want to remind you that you should address your comments to me as chair. That's not because I'm narcissistic, it's just because of the rules. Since there's a motion on the floor, we will utilize a pro-con debate format, although it may be disproportionate, I'm not sure, alternating between the two, and as well as by constituencies. Okay?
All right, first up in the queue, we have Colin Lang, who is a student here in person and pro. Colin, can you stand up, raise your hand? Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm a student senator for the law school, and I'm going to focus pretty narrowly on a couple parts of the resolution. I'm sure my Senate colleagues will speak more eloquently than I can about some of the other issues, but I wanted to highlight the student equality provision, and I'll read it again. Institutions commit to defining and otherwise interpreting male, female, woman, and man according to reproductive function and biological processes. This comes at a time when some of the most powerful people in our country have been relentlessly attacking the identities of trans people, non-binary people. And so in addition to probably being illegal, this portion of the compact, we have an opportunity now to reject it and to show that we will not be a part of that obsessive attack that has been launched against members of our community. And so in addition to the many other grave concerns, that is another reason that I think supporting this resolution is something that would be our responsibility. Thank you.
Next, we have Tony Abbs, who is also here in person, a PNA, and for pro.
Hi, Chair. I wanted to speak to this pro, but with additional comments, I suppose. Hard to choose pro or con sometimes, but I do have some concerns about being an early adopter of this kind of statement at the university level. I see the UVA has theirs. I've seen MIT's. I've reviewed some of the documents that were linked, but I do question turning a spotlight on Minnesota sooner than we have to. And not to say that we should not, and I think it may be, yes, we want to, and here's why. But I would want to call that question to the group and say, I think that may be what we're doing. And in addition to that, a suggested language and edit to maybe match the UVA statement to say the Department of Education has requested rather than the Trump administration. That may have been intentional, but again, spotlight specifically on that language. Thanks.
That sounded like
Is,
an actual.
is that a motion to amend?
You can ask him if they'll take us a friendly amendment. I'm not a parliamentarian. Can it be a motion to consider or discuss?
So this is a question for you. What we do when somebody wants to change the wording of a motion is, our rules are not the rules in the standard Roberts rules. Our rules are, you can ask the people who are sponsoring the amendment, or sponsoring the motion, if they will accept the amendment as a friendly amendment, and then it is integrated. I'm not quite sure what we do with the fact that 60-plus senators are sponsors of this motion. If you would like to change the wording and the 60-plus senators do not wish to accept your amendment, then we all vote on it. So I actually, since somebody has the mic there.
Do you want to speak to that mic? Our concern has been exactly what you just mentioned, which is that 66 people have already signed on.
Yeah, I think, as I understand it, we adopted many things from the UVA resolution, but we adopted that language to be slightly broader than the Department of Education because it's not exactly, if we say only the Department of Education and then it comes from another office, right? So we've adopted strategically broad language knowing that things are somewhat fluid in the way they've been moving.
I guess I'd offer as a friendly amendment to just remove the qualifying language before and say specifically this compact. I'd offer that to the 66, I guess. Apologies for that complication.
I think we need a specific language suggestion. And actually, it is supposed to be submitted in writing. And And I apologize for people online if you can't pick me up on a mic.
Can we table it and move on to discussion while the senator considers submitting it in writing?
Yes, you can.
Yes, we can table it. Do I hear a motion?
No, just, let's just, when she's ready. Let's
So-
continue the discussion.
That's why I have parliamentarians sitting next to me. We will move forward with further discussion, and if a written amendment is submitted, we will take it up at the time.
And Tony, you can just send that to me if you have it. Okay, next in the queue is a faculty senator, Christopher Phelan, who is con here in the Twin Cities.
Excuse me. Oh, you hold it? Okay. Well, first of all, I'll just get this up front. I read the compact very carefully. I got nothing against any of it. If it were just me, I'd sign it. The idea that this is that we can, in a long-run sense, conduct a university with major funding where the executive of that federal government is going to be alternatively from a party that most of the faculty think is anathema, is not a long-run thing. So I want to ask, what are we really going to be accomplishing by this? Do we really think that this is a great idea? The idea from the Parade of Horribles that, we represent all viewpoints, come on. It reminds me of the line from Animal House where they said, what kind of music do you play at this bar? Oh, both kinds, country and Western. So the idea that we can be permanently at war with the federal government, who provides all of our funding, or not all of it, but a huge amount of funding, is simply long-run untenable. So instead of this, I'm not going to put in a motion, because I know this is going to pass anyway. What would have been smarter in my view is they want us to do A, B, C, and D. You know what? A and B are no problem. C and D, yeah, we got some problems with C and D, so instead of C and D, why don't we do alternative to C and alternative to D? It would sound less petulant. Thank you.
Next in the queue is Ava Von Dassau, who is a pro-faculty senator here in person.
With thanks to my partner, Mike Stand, the universities that have rejected the so-called compact have done so on the basis of decisive arguments, including, first, that it would replace criteria of scientific, scholarly, and artistic merit with criteria of ideological fealty and dogmatic fixity, and that it fails to specify what benefits submission would earn while threatening to withhold benefits on unconstitutional grounds. Elements of it may nevertheless be appealing on the surface, notably the requirements to constrain tuition increases, yay, and administrative costs, double yay, and to rein in grade inflation and to accommodate a diversity of viewpoints. But these are spurious, they are false promises, because first, institutions would simply raise tuition at the start of their 5-year compact period and keep it that high, while administration would have to balloon to comply with the compact's regulatory demands, especially its prescriptions and proscriptions on information and ideas. As for monitoring the grades faculty assign, while I'd welcome measures to address grade inflation personally, by what standard would the government determine that I grade too easy, which is never what my students think? And with regard to the requirement of viewpoint diversity, to the exclusion of any other kind, this presupposes that people come stamped with prefabricated ideas rather than forming their views through study and deliberation. This, then, is antithetical to education and scholarship. It is antithetical to our mission. Finally, the federal government's demand to monitor everything we say and do than to penalize the whole school on the grounds of finding any claim of violation by any of its members.
Your time is up.
Is unconstitutional.
We have one final question, unless there's a request to extend it.
Next up in the queue is Dominic Scavulo, who is a student in person here, and Khan.
Thanks. So I just want to echo some of the concerns that we've already heard here, mostly around the language of the resolution rather than its actual components. I think it would be something that's best referred to the consultative committee where we can work out those language issues before bringing it back to the Senate as a whole. And I think it would be beneficial if, rather than completely rejecting the entire thing, we say, hey, we have issues with things like quotas on students from foreign countries, but things like offering free tuition for hard science programs to students that don't come from wealthy families is something that's beneficial. Not that we should accept the compact as a whole, just that that piece of it is not something that's antithetical to our mission, that actually helps us. I do think we should reject the compact as a whole, but there are points that maybe it's worth saying, if it was this alone, it's not bad. And then we have our language issues as well, where I think that could be better worked out in the consultative committee. So, actually, do I have a minute here? I would make a motion to refer the legislation to the consultative committee at its next meeting to return to the Senate floor on our next meeting in December.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
Second?
Okay, so the motion is to refer it to the Senate
So,
consultative committee.
so we'll vote on the motion to send it to the consultative committee. We can do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Point of order.
Okay, I would get a show of hands.
Point of order.
Get a show of hands.
No, there was a point of order.
Yeah, I think we need to pause for just a moment.
Okay,
That-
hang on.
It's not,
I think there was a point of order from someone online.
that-
We're going to do it by poll.
Does that answer the point
Retract
of
the
order?
point. I'll retract it.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, everybody, so Jacqueline, could you put the chime in QR code up, please? I am going to open the vote for this right now. You may need to refresh, and we will give everybody a little bit of time to do that. The link is also in the agenda.
So, question?
Yes.
Voting yes means that we will refer to the resolution to the SCC and vote again, and we'll come back in December. Voting no means we're continuing to deal with it now. Is that
I
correct?
don't know if December is, that part is necessarily.
That was
Okay, so I missed it.
So, sorry, this is Nancy. I'm just want to repeat that on the mic for people who are online. So this is a clarification question from the audience. Voting yes means voting to refer it to committee and to have it come back at our next major Senate meeting, which is
December 4th.
December. And then voting no is voting to continue the discussion right now and the subsequent vote on the resolution.
If you're getting an error, please reload the page. You also may need to re-sign in. I got that when I was, I just needed to go out and re-sign in totally. I'm leaving this open for a while, so. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't sign in. I'm still being told I have no chance.
Okay.
I'm getting the same thing.
If you use the QR code, you should be able to. A lot of people have voted already, so.
There's been a request from the online people to put the link in to the chat.
Just a minute.
Okay.
Please
Hold
refresh,
just a
please
moment.
refresh, because there is that open question and many people have voted, so it's nothing I can there's nothing I can troubleshoot. You'll have to do it on your end.
The link in the agenda does seem to work.
Okay, so the Z-Link is working for people and the QR code is,
Link has been posted in the chat. Thank you, Vivi. Can you use the Z-Link that's up there? I don't know. It works fine for me.
Are people still having problems?
Look, we have 150 votes, so. Yeah.
If you haven't been able to log in, can you raise your hand so we can get a sense of how many people are saying that you have not voted yet? Got 1, 2,
4.
okay.
one person with their hand up online saying they can't vote, 5.
I would say let's have them message you privately, Amber, so we can add to the others. Can we do that? Just have them chat you?
Sure.
I don't know if the people who are here in the room are on the chat.
But they can also just email Amber Bathkey.
Yep.
And we'll make sure that we add it now.
So let's vote.
There's more people weighing in on the chat. The link's not working.
Well, I don't really want to count 150 hands, but I guess we can.
Well, no, if there's only a few people who have been able to vote, we can add them to the tallies that we were able to get.
Is the tally close?
Yes.
Okay,
It's
then
close.
it really matters.
Give us a minute.
I'm not sure everybody who's here in the room would have heard what you're saying about how to.
For folks who are online, I put in the chat
Yes.
that you can email Amber or you can chat her. For those who are here in the audience, you can email Amber and we'll just add those to those tallies quickly.
And I'll just briefly respond to the student senator. I think I would love free tuition too, and tuition freeze. I mean, that's something I would love to work with the student senate on advancing. And this is not the way to do it, to surrender our constitutional rights. And I think that's what makes this so sort of passionate and time sensitive. But I just want to say that I really share that.
I'm giving people time to, I'm giving people time to email. We're not in a rush today, so.
Lori and Amber, may I ask a point of information?
Sure.
I think I successfully voted. I was prompted to log in with my X500 and then it says saved. And I'm assuming that that means I voted. Is that correct?
I think that is correct. I got the same thing.
Okay.
Got the same thing too.
Okay, great. I know that sometimes you have to hit confirm or submit after that, so I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
The same anxiety, but I think it recorded.
Oh, people are saying check in your answered questions. It should show if you were able to, if you answered or not.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yep, that works.
I'll give maybe another minute for people to email me. Right now.
Is that it?
I'm gonna just check my email one more time. I think that's it.
Okay.
So,
We have 76 yes and 81 no. The motion does not carry. So,
I thought the time is up, so you need to take the vote.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. So unless there's a motion to extend discussion, we will move. So move?
Second,
Is that a 2/3 or single?
I think that's 2/3.
One moment.
Just
I
a
believe
minute.
it's 2/3.
I think it's 2/3.
2/3.
Okay. Now that you've learned to vote, chime.
Hopefully everyone is able to do so now. That, to extend the time, the vote has been opened.
So that requires a 2/3 vote of the senators. What's that?
Yeah, how long do you want to extend it by?
10 minutes.
Done.
Point of order. May I make a point of order? Is there any debate that is appropriate on this motion?
On extending?
No,
No.
no.
Okay.
So are they voting?
All right, I will give 30 more seconds if you wish to vote.
So the question is on extending the time for 10 minutes.
Correct.
Right, okay.
Just to reiterate, the motion is to extend time of the debate for another 10 minutes.
Do we know what our total attendance is at the moment?
64%. And I'll call that time. And that is 85 yeses and 50 noes. That is 62.96% in favor. So the motion does not carry.
Sorry.
So-
Okay. In that case,
Vote on the actual resolution.
we will actually vote, we'll go back to vote on the actual resolution. And this is to vote in favor or against the Compact for Academic Excellence resolution.
Just,
All right, that vote is now open.
I just wanted to clarify briefly, because just because of how you worded that, you're voting in favor of the resolution or against the resolution?
I will give 10 more seconds. And last call. Okay, with, let's see, 123 ayes, And 18 nays, that motion is approved.
Okay. I want to thank everybody for a good discussion. I think it was. Okay. And appropriately enough, item 10 is a discussion of how we establish trust within the Senate. Professor Leo will give us some opening remarks. And this time, I want you to have questions.
No questions on the agenda for this one.
Well, at least discussion.
Discussion, yes. Questions, no. And I think that was a good discussion previously, and the kind of discussions I think I would like to have in this body. So I get to talk about trust, and I want to make it clear I am not an academic expert on trust. I study composite materials, lightweight metal alloys, things like that, not trust. I have not studied trust. I have not taken any special classes on trust. I have been department head for about 12 years. I've been married for about 25 years, so feel free to ask my colleagues in my department or my spouse if they trust me. Don't ask my kids because I know they'll say no. So I'm also not really an expert on the culture we are in, but I picked up a bad habit during the pandemic, which is doom scrolling on Twitter, now X. And you know, you see on that app people assuming bad intentions, conspiracies everywhere, in every action or decision, choosing a side and hunkering down, only following a few people. I do know enough about trust, at least I think I know enough about trust, that all those things don't seem to be consistent with trust. And that seems to be where we're at as a society. I think we hear in all discussions about these kinds of trust issues, and you know, it's societal. It's also apparent, to me at least, that there's many possible layers to a discussion of trust. Some people don't trust me, some people don't trust the administration. If the media is to be believed, and some people don't trust the media, there is diminishing trust in higher education from the public. Just this past week, just thinking about these words, I saw the editorial by Megan McArdle in the Washington Post titled "The Sweetheart Deal is Over for Academia." I think some of the comments earlier kind of referred to some of the media environment with higher ed and trust. There was an article in the Times called "The Age of the Unhinged Professor Art," which I didn't fully read, but it's about the portrayal of higher ed in film and TV. I never knew that English departments were so ripe for having television shows based on their politics. So we can, of course, dispute the details of these articles and other articles, and I don't support those articles at all. I think mostly they're ridiculous, but I think it does point out that this trust discussion is really everywhere. It's everywhere, it points in every direction. We don't trust them, they don't trust us, and it's a really, really challenging situation. Almost every day, one can find something about trusts in the daily feeds that you get from the Chronicle or Inside Higher Education. It was amusing that this morning I saw that the Chronicle has a book on building trust for $99. I learned when I walked into this meeting that our Senate staff has bought that book, so maybe we're good. So while all these layers may not come out in today's discussion, and I don't expect them to, I think this is more about us, I do believe we have to be aware of them. So today I'm worried about trust in the context of shared governance at the University of Minnesota and how we keep productive lines of communication open among each other and between the different senates and the administration, regents, public. I expect that there will be important and even existential issues that this body will need to address in the next few years. I think we saw just the tip of the iceberg in what we just discussed with the compact from the Trump administration. I will say that Tim Johnson, the co-chair, myself, the Senate office, are committed to working with you to make the Senate as effective as possible and to have as much trust, to establish as much trust as possible. So today, at least, I think what I'm interested in, what we're interested in, is hearing from as many people as possible your thoughts about how we can establish trust within the Senate committees, and between shared governance and the administration. So I'll stop there. I'm happy, like I said, to stay later and answer any questions about this or anything else. But for now, I'm looking forward to hearing what other people think about how we can build trust as a Senate. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Leo. We'll now proceed to a discussion, and I want to remind you again that you please address your comments to me as chair, and we'll utilize the virtual queue as we've done previously. And in this case, we're not going to vote, so those of you who got frustrated with chime will not have to deal with that again.
All right.
Amber will probably kick me under the table for that last comment.
Under the table, all right, let's do it right up. First up, we have Rosemary Burns-Velez, who is a civil service member here in person.
Oh, I don't get to touch it. Hi, everybody. My name is Rosemary Burns-Velez. I'm the chair of the Civil Service Senate and the Civil Service Consultative Committee. I'd like to just mention that I'm the chair because I was elected in a special election when our chair was laid off. So civil service has some huge trust issues. We're on the bottom of the pile. I am nervous talking in front of this group. I have felt many times, let me get a hold of myself. I have felt many times being on the bottom of that heap when I'm in this Senate with so many faculty. And civil service has hardly any voice here. We were not invited to sign on the proclamation that came up today. I would have signed. I was in favor of it, but I wasn't asked. That erodes trust. I think that not giving us space to speak, like always being first in line in the queue, erodes trust. I think that not being aware of your own power in this space erodes the trust. I think that we are very much in the same boat, and I feel often that our faculty and other people in this body are like pounding holes in that boat. And I'm not saying that I don't want people to say what they want to say here. I'm all in favor of academic freedom. I went to the Humphrey School. I mean, I am a hardcore believer. I believe in the school, and I am here working to keep the school going every day that I'm in the building where I work. And I just would like us to work together. That's what I'm really working for, is working together. Thanks.
That's all right. Next up is Sarah Buchanan, who's a faculty member here in person.
So I'm Sarah Buchanan. I am here in person, but I am a faculty member of the Morris campus. I'm here this semester for the IAS. And I'm speaking on behalf of myself, not my campus today, but I am far from a conspiracy theorist. I am constantly trying to walk people away from the wall. However, my trust in the administration of this institution crumbled when President Cunningham forced our chancellor out without explaining why, with no consultation with our campus. And I am beyond angry about this and have no recourse to express my anger about it. There are no conversations whatsoever. And when Cunningham did come to Morris the day after the announcement, she was asked approximately 8 times why this decision was made and skirted it each of those 8 times and never gave us a why. And when I know, I'm sad that she's not here, I would have liked to have spoken directly to her, but that has, of course, led me to say that there is some ulterior reason that has not been shared, and how can I trust her or the movement when nothing has been shared? And so that impacts also my relationship to this Senate body. Thank you.
Next up is Charles Rank, Civil Service Senator, here in person.
Hi, yes, I'm a civil service senator from University Services. My colleague Rosemary just said everything perfectly, so that I'll just like double and triple underline everything she said. My comments will just be pretty brief. I would like people to just check their tone. I find that it seems very often, I'm an employee, I come here in the middle of my workday, and then I sit down, and it seems some people have like personal vendettas against the president, and so that's not, I don't think, conducive of a very trusting environment to walk into that, and then it's like, what are these, it just feels like there's something personal going on sometimes, so I think we should all, look forward to working together and watching that, and assuming positive intent.
Next is David Reddish, Faculty Senator, here in person.
Hi, Dave Reddish, Department of Neuroscience Medical School. I don't know if I'm an expert in trust, although we did literally preprint 2 papers on what is trust about a month ago. And I wanted to say one of the things that comes from all that kind of research is that you need to actually access trust not only in the big picture, but actually in the specific things in what we do. And so one of the keys is belief in a shared community, that we actually are dedicated to the university, and I think we all are, but actually keeping that in mind. And the other things, though, are regularity of opportunities, regularity of meetings, having a set time when we come and we do and we have a process. So, for example, the way that the meeting got all shifted, which I understand how this happens, but being aware that that process, not having that process regular, can erode trust. And then finally, that we have established expectations, that those established expectations with opportunities for discussion and voice are a structure, and we know what to expect from each other in this debate. And so taking these, there really are mechanisms that can help, and I think if we follow those, we can actually, as people have said, assume that we are in fact here with good intention and have the real discussion. But I think the key is more time and regular time. And those things make a big difference in these kinds of spaces. Thank you.
Next is Bruce Braun, faculty member here in person also.
Hi, Bruce Braun from the Department of Geography in the CLA. And I just want to emphasize that I think most of us are here, to come back to the other point, because we really care about this institution. And if we get upset and if the tone, becomes sharp at times, it's not because, we have a vendetta. I think it's because we're really passionate about these things. I just want to underline that and not necessarily get too concerned about that. Although I do think this question of the power differentials in here with the civil service servant, forgetting the language here, but the different senates and really sort of paying attention to that's important. Comments I want to make really focus on questions of transparency and accountability, and I think that that's how we build trust. And I want to really give an example of this so that we can sort of think through, well, how do we build trust? So before the last Senate meeting, I submitted a question in advance to the president. And it was prompted by events at the University of California, Berkeley that had dominated the news cycle. And the question was a simple one. And the question was this: had the administration disclosed the names of students and staff and faculty as part of any Department of Education investigation? And if it had the individuals been informed and offered support, including access to legal counsel? This is an existential question, and it matters to a good number of people here in this room. At the meeting, the president announced that she'd only be taking questions from the floor rather than those that were submitted. So I got in the queue, only to have the Q&A closed just when I was next in line to speak. And I actually don't have a conspiracy theory around this. You haven't. Okay. So then we'd been told that questions not answered that had been submitted would be answered later. And so a week later, I followed up to see what the answer would be. And to this date, I've never received a response to that question. And I think that's important because these are urgent questions. They're existential questions. They matter to the people in this room.
I'm sorry, your time's up.
Next is Shireen Sabet, PNA, here in person.
Hi, I'm Shireen Sabet. It's nice to see everyone in the room and also those online. You asked how can we build trust together. I would love to be able to work with a lot of you in person, get to know each of you. We're all here, as Bruce said, to work together, and we want the best for this institution. I've worked here for 20 plus years, and I'm very invested in this university and devoted to it. I work now with the Mobile Health Initiative, but I want to get to know each of you, not just by faces, but by name. I want to work in small groups. I want to work on policy changes. I want to work on, whatever the administration has to offer, they can delegate to us. We can work in small groups, and then those who are interested in developing things. I know that is done to some extent now, but I don't know how to get in those circles. I would love to be in those circles, and I'm here to make a difference. I want to do that, and I want to get to know all of you in that process. And I think building trust is by getting to know one another across the aisles, across the different classifications, and working together on the themes that are most important to us individually. We can categorize different themes potentially and work on those, just break it down more and break down tasks and task forces and groups of people. I think the power is in the people and the power is in our voices. So when we come together, we can make that happen. I'm just thinking out loud, but this is how I've been feeling. It's been, someone said, check your tone. That resonated with me. A lot of times I come and I hear such a negative tone, it's discouraging. And I don't want to operate in that sort of environment. Thank you.
Next is Jessica Lopez-Lyman, faculty in person.
Hi, everyone. My name's Jessica Lopez-Lyman. I'm in Chicano Latino Studies. I'm CLA Senator, faculty senator. I appreciate your opening saying that you are not an expert on trust. I've dedicated 25 years to studying trust and to be in movement work. And we have a phrase in social movements, we say that we build at the speed of trust. And unfortunately, during this current political climate, when chaos is intentional and isolation is intentional, I feel like we move constantly so quickly without really being able to build the trust that would make our movements stronger. My biggest issue with being a new senator is that things feel very siloed. So for example, I know there's issues at the medical school, but I could not tell you one thing about it, but I would like to support you. So the same thing with civil service or PNA. I would like to listen. That is how we build trust. What I can do today is talk to you about Ridges. And this is a statement I would like to read that was produced by the director and the associate director of Ridges along with the advisory board. If you've seen in the news, we've had a lot of attacks on the ethnic studies curriculum. And these are a few of the words that they would like me to share with you. Our curriculum is developed in compliance in agreement with the Minnesota Department of Education, which were developed to support K-12 teachers and students. To support us, we want everyone to understand that these deceitful, violent attacks on faculty, on students, on staff, just to side note, my students are terrified every day to come to campus because of being folks of color, not having documentation. the directors continue to write that these criticisms are norms in our units in ethnic, gender, sexuality, indigenous, and disability studies. These attacks are intensifying, but for our fields, for our people, these are not new. We are constantly under surveillance. We are constantly having to turn over our syllabi. And while some of you are experiencing it for the first time and we understand how horrible and scary it is, we ask that you learn more about our work and that you support us, and we would love to support the
I'm
causes.
sorry,
that-
your time is up.
Next is Joshua Braverman, PNA here in person.
I would echo a lot of what was said, so I won't really pick on the topic, but I would say that the connection between the different folks in this room is probably a really substantially easy or straightforward place to start. We have an FCC, SCC, PNA Consultative Committee, Civil Service Consultative Committee, Student, Senate. I'm on the PNA Consultative Committee. The fact that those groups don't seem to get together even once a year might in and of itself be a place to start, just at the beginning of the year, because like I don't actually know much about what goes on in the Civil Service Senate. I mean, I'd love to attend if I had the time, along with, these meetings, but at least having those groups from the consultative side of things that are smaller groups of people get together to know more would be great, to build connections in a more controlled manner, in a more kind of smaller scale manner, because it's thousands of people around. But again, I would echo most of what was said, but I would just like to also propose that there's a potential places to start.
Next is Sasha Zagaloff, faculty, and she is online.
Thank you. Like you said, Sasha Zagaloff, faculty senator from Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences in the med school. And I do want to thank you for making it possible to attend by Zoom. I actually do think that that helps with trust because it allows me to care for my family and be in this meeting rather than sending an alternate. That being said, I want to amplify and return to two of the previous senators' comments. The one about questions being submitted for the last meeting that we didn't get to, and then the other senator who expressed interest in what's going on in the medical school. And so I know multiple senators from the med school have submitted questions that we haven't gotten a chance to talk about. And so then reading in the email that there was no pressing business ready for presentation or discussion just felt a little bit like whiplash given everything that is happening in the medical school. And so as chair of the FAC for the med school, would love to work with the rest of the Senate on how we could share what's happening in the med school, since it is a pretty large school and portion of the university that impacts everybody. So thank you.
Next is Ava Von Dassau, faculty member here in person.
As a preamble, I would like to return to what the first speaker said and to say I'm glad to hear from you, Rosemary. And as a tenured faculty member, I'm lucky to have that position. And I do feel keenly that I have an obligation to use the privilege that comes with being a tenured faculty member on behalf of those who do not have that privilege. I'm sensitive to how precarity is felt by those who are not tenured faculty, as I am. I would also remark that tone policing leads to thought policing, before returning to the issue raised by our colleague from Morris, which is that the person who is the cause of the most mistrust isn't in the room, chose not to attend this meeting. Decisions by the current university administration have undermined programs, departments, entire campuses of this system, and we have been denied the opportunity to question the president and the provost about those decisions. There were many questions left over from the last Senate meeting that could have been raised at this Senate meeting if there was no time for them then. And so, as Senator Zagaloff said, there was certainly no shortage of agenda items. there were at least a dozen people in the queue wanting to raise questions about this so-called strategic plan. That could have been put on the agenda for now. The questions about the medical school, what is happening there? We need an explanation. We need to hear from people who know about it and who can explain it. And that could have been on the agenda for this meeting. So, failing to address concerns that people raise is a pretty good way to undermine trust.
So, Perry, do you want to respond to that? Where do you go?
Where did Perry go?
Yeah, just two brief points. One, the president is at a special board meeting that was called today, right now, so that's why she's not here. And second, I agree that there are absolutely plenty of things to talk about, but we need people to bring them to our attention. We need the agenda items. And so I am more than happy to put things on the agenda if people give them to me. I do not want to be the one that sets the agenda. And in fact, we did have the medical school situation as one of the agenda items. The one really good thing that came out of all this is we now have a nice list of agenda items for the future.
And enough time to get them arranged. Yes, next up is Karen Sue Tosig, faculty, and she is online.
Yeah, hi. I want to thank you for having this conversation. I think I want to reiterate some of the things that have already been said about tone police, for example. I certainly have come to the Faculty Senate passionate about an issue, even angry. We're allowed to be angry. It's okay to be angry. And it's okay to express that anger. So I think we really want to be careful about tone police and the gendered and racialized dimensions of that. The other thing I want to bring up is that I really think, having served on the Senate for many years, I am not currently a senator, but somebody yielded their time to me, but I have been on the Senate for more than 2 terms, I think. And the way the meetings are run has always been a real frustration to me because I think it undermines trust, because it constrains democratic deliberation and opportunities to productively engage each other. That's part of the reason I'm happy we're having this conversation today. But I think we really need to think about how we are able to get to know each other through real democratic deliberation, how we can talk to each other in ways that are far more productive than what the way these meetings are currently run. Which I think profoundly undermines trust in fundamental ways. Thank you.
Sorry, next up we have Michael Lope, who is here in person.
Hi, thanks so much. Yeah, I just wanted to say, first of all, like, my first Senate term was 2014 to 2017, and so for the civil service senators who have felt afraid to speak, I totally remember what that's like. As an assistant professor, I sat in the corner over there because they had the meetings here, and I would never have gotten up here to say anything. And I think we really need to address that at the University Senate. I think those hierarchies are very real. This is, when I said earlier, this is student, staff, and faculty. We need to work across those boundaries. And I will also say the institution is so huge, it's really hard to connect with people, so I think that's something that we need to do more of. I also just want to say, this body passed an institutional speech policy. We worked for 1.5 years on it. We passed it like 93%. Everybody wanted it. It allowed people to speak. It balanced everybody's concerns. We put all of our work into it. We consulted with OGC. We had all kinds of experts on it. The president and the regents, as far as I understand, there's no history of this, no precedent where the regents overturned a policy. And I've spoken with some of the new regents, and they're quite concerned about this precedent, that the regents are being used to overturn the work of shared governance. This is our collective voice, and I very much feel like we all need to feel comfortable speaking here, that we're going to disagree. That's inevitable, but we also have to understand that what's happening here with leadership and President Cunningham is a problem. And we need to work with her and the regents and across the system of shared governance to find a solution, because this is not a sustainable pattern, right? We have tense, difficult meetings repeatedly, and I think leadership, in part of when you overtake someone's decision, a shared governance policy, and then you go and censor departments, that kind of academic freedom violation, it leaves a stench on the institution. I mean, it's a trauma, right? And so many of our units, going back to the Ridges units, I mean, a lot of us feel like we have chilled speech, right? So I think there are some real issues with what's happened. And yeah, thank you.
I want to thank everybody for that discussion. I think it was helpful. And I normally don't enter into discussions on things, but I'd like to make a couple of comments. And one is, before I came to the University of Minnesota, I was at the National Science Foundation, and there were two program directors, Kamala Shukla and Dolil Nasser, who were known as being royal pains in the ass, who had really bad tone whenever they came to a meeting. And they subsequently passed away, and their professional societies named awards and fellowships after them because they are some of the greatest program directors ever. And so it's not necessarily tone that matters, it's content. And I just want to say that. And then the other one I want to say is that if we want to communicate more with the president, it's certainly possible, working through the FCC and the president's office, to schedule longer discussions in the next Senate meetings if that works out. And so it's something that if you want to raise your voice, Perry is the one to talk to. And so those are options. Okay, is that okay? All right. Item 11 concerns a report from the Academic Freedom and Tenure Committee. It's not designated as time, but I asked Eric Van Wyck if he would at least tell us a little bit about that information item. And so I think you can come to the podium. I think you might as well have a lofty perch. And he promised me that he would do it in 0 time.
You could put the 2-minute timer up there just to make sure I don't yammer on. So this sort of is in regard to actually what Michael was just talking about, what happened at the board meeting in March, to sort of undo a lot of work through AF&T. I'm the chair of the Academic Freedom and Tenure Committee, to sort of undo the work of that committee, the president's task force, both the faculty and university senates. If you're unfamiliar with that, the report that we filed in preparation for their discussion we thought was going to happen in October has a history of all that. If you're new to the Senate, you could take a look at that. Anyway, there was no discussion. Our report just recounted our past analyses on this issue of institutional speech and unit statements on matters of public concern, and then also described some of the stories we have heard since March of people's concerns about how that resolution has impacted their academic freedom. It wasn't a big investigation. It was just like, this is what we've heard. The board should know about it for their discussion when they said they would revisit this topic. They didn't talk about it. They filed the president's 1-page report on the issue. We're hopeful that there will be a future open discussion on this very important issue. And our report was hopefully going to inform that discussion. It's technically a sort of a statement from the committee, so that's why it's here as an information item. And I appreciate the chance to say something about these information items. Otherwise, they sort of disappear and no one really pays a lot of attention to them. So thank you, Jerry, for that. So, and if you have questions on this, please grab me and I'm happy to talk for hours about this topic.
Would you take a question or two?
If people have them, yes.
Any? Guess not. All right. Oh.
You said you sent this report to the Board of Regents for their last meeting?
We sent it ahead of their meeting in October.
Is it available somewhere for everybody to look up?
It is on the AF&T's webpage,
Okay.
so if you go to the Senate pages.
It's also
you'll
linked
find
in the agenda.
It's in the agenda as well, yeah.
In this agenda, okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Item 12 concerns old business. Oh, another one? Oh. Just see you back. That's good.
Hi, everybody. Kelsey Metzger. I'm a faculty senator from the Rochester campus. I had a question. I'm a member of the FCC as well, and members of that group received a dissenting opinion. I just wanted to see if Eric would like to address that.
Yeah, we do have dissenting opinions, so we voted, we wrote this report and voted on it. The vote was 12-1 in favor of sending the report to the Board of Regents, so that's what we did. Our previous work on this topic from spring of 2024, we had a dissenting view section of that report. There was 2 of the 15 voting members who held the dissenting view, and at that point we thought including that dissenting view there was important. In this report, it was really just sort of recounting that past analysis that we had done and explaining the stories that had come to our committee in the meantime. And so that's all it was. None of the committee, a vast majority of the committee members did not want to go into the rehashing of the debate. It's a report of what we heard and the impacts that were brought to our committee. That's what it is. It's not a new in-depth investigation that would then sort of get into the to and fro of this important topic. It was, here's what we heard, and it's not good. So that was what it was. Thanks.
Thank you. I think I'm going to cut off the discussion since I stuck this in the agenda. Item 12 concerns old business. There is no old business. Item 13 concerns new business. Please note that any new business will be referred to committee unless special permission is granted by 2/3 of the voting present. Is there any new business? Seeing none, I think we can go home. If there's no further business, this concludes our meeting. Seeing no further business, we're adjourned.